We are Brianna Lindo, Ava Workman, and Lyndsey Campeau, and this is our ideal classroom promoting personal interests. Our classroom goals. The purpose of school is to provide for the fullest possible development of each learner for living morally, creatively, and productively in a democratic society. Why is it important? Because it is the foundation for each student's future development, providing a strong base for a lifelong learning and learning abilities, including cognitive and social development. Early childhood education is an essential building block for a child's future success. What should be achieved? Our goal for our ideal classroom is that we want every student to want to be at school, and we want the students to want to learn. We want the students to achieve in our classroom to build their social skills, language skills, and self-control. What we believe of how children learn and develop. In our ideal classroom, we are going to use the philosophy of Reggio Emilia and Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory.
In our classroom, we would use the Reggio Emilia approach to teaching. We want children to decide what they want to learn. We want to make sure that the children want to be learning, and by using the Reggio Emilia approach, it allows for children to talk about things that they like and want to continue to learn. Teachers should adjust plans and based off of what the students seem to be interested in at that time, and then connect it back to the curriculum. Curiosity is the most powerful tool to learning, and if students are able to guide their learning and talk about things they're genuinely interested in, it will allow them to learn more and enjoy going to school. Like Fagati, the Reggio Emilia approach focuses on the idea of scaffolding. Scaffolding is the idea that a teacher or peer provides support for new concepts and skills and may demonstrate how it's done. Reggio Emilia also incorporates things from culture, community, and environment. In our classroom, we would use Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. We want our students to be able to figure out how they learn best and what suits them. There are 8 intelligences: linguistic, logical, musical, kinesthetic, spatial visual, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. The point of this theory is that everyone learns differently and everyone has a way that helps them best. Howard Gardner made this so that we could respect the many differences between people. In order to help these students strive in school, we should adjust our lesson plans to help students learn in a way that is easiest for them. We as teachers should provide students with the opportunity to learn in the way that they know best. If a student learns well musically, we should allow them to listen to music while they do their work, or provide them with songs that will make it easier for them to remember the information.
Our ideal classroom is centered around the personal interests of our students. We want to make sure that each student has a chance to explore which way they learn best, and eventually have them apply their learning strategies to their everyday life. In the next few slides, we'll be going through what our ideal classroom looks like, which includes the physical environment, classroom materials, curriculum, teaching strategies, assessment strategies, and guidance strategies. The physical environment of our classroom includes 8 stations, one for each of the 8 intelligences, to give the students a chance to explore each station and figure out which one they learn best at. We also want to include a teaching table with 5 to 6 independent chairs to give the students an option to work one-on-one with the teacher or in small groups. Many students need to take a break or just want time to themselves, so it's important that we include individual desks so the students can choose to work alone, while also having the option to easily move their desk into a group. So this is what our ideal physical environment of our classroom setup would look like. In the top right corner, you see the teaching table with the 6 chairs around it. In the middle of your screen, we have a group of desks that can be split up into individual desks. And at the bottom, we have the 8 stations with 3 people per station, or you can modify it to how many students you have in the classroom. We want to make sure that we have all the materials needed to support each of the 8 intelligences. So having enough materials that everybody can share, as well as having individual materials, is important as well. So we have some printouts of audiobooks that we listen to in class so the students can follow along, color-coded parts of speech, or parts of speech that we put onto the wall, number lines, flashcards, base 10 blocks, musical instruments, props to act out scenes, so when we're reading a book, they can act out a scene to show their understanding, letter tiles, graphs, puzzles and board games, journals, crayons, markers, pencils, and scissors, mats for like meditation or if they need to calm down, rocks so we can explore the environment, umbrella so we can go outside when the weather's not too nice, binoculars, microscopes, and maps. Here we have some materials that we can use in our classroom. We have scissors, flashcards, base 10 blocks, crayons, pencils, markers, and computers. These can all be shared or they can be used individually. Now we're going to move on to the curriculum for our classroom. The curriculum for our classroom must be based on the 8 intelligences that a student can learn. Each student learns their own way, but every student must be able to show an understanding of the material that's provided. So for an example, for a linguistic learner, we can do word recognition, oral and independent reading, decoding. For a logical learner, we need to understand the base 10 systems and ordering numbers, as well as measuring and understanding lengths. For a musical learner, we may be able to recognize rhythm through sound or speech with poems. For a kinesthetic learner, they need to be able to perform writing by tracing and use props to act out or show the understanding of the material that they just learned. For a visual learner, they need to comprehend and construct maps, graphs, and charts. For an interpersonal learner, place parts of speech into correct groups, gain an understanding through small and large group discussions, and they also need to learn formal language. For an intrapersonal learner, they need to recognize and find solutions to mistakes, self-reflect on personal success, and understand and convey their emotions. And for a naturalistic learner, they need to understand different seasons and months, and understand different animals and plants along with their function out in the environment. So here we just have some examples of the curriculum that the students should be able to do based on their interests. We have reading and making a chart for visual learners, tracing to write sentences for kinesthetic and linguistic learners, and matching the seasons with what we see in nature for naturalistic learners.
For teaching strategies in our classroom, we believe the teacher should lead the demonstration. Teachers should listen rather than just teach. We should guide and shape the direction of the learning, but there should still be a curriculum for what we're meant to follow. We should allow the students to talk about what they want to. We also believe that children should guide their own learning. We want to foster curiosity, exploration, creativity, and discovery in our classroom. By giving the children the opportunity to lead their own learning, they get to do all of these things. We think we should avoid competition because we want to foster a community where students feel heard and safe, and by avoiding competition, it can allow for students to focus on their own growth and not have to worry about how well others are doing. We should encourage students by creating a competition with themselves in order to improve on their past accomplishments. We also believe that we should document progress. By documenting the progress of our students in our own classroom, we will be able to tell how they're growing without directly testing them of their knowledge. This gives us the opportunity to combine the Reggio Emilia approach of documentation and the Howard Gardner theory by steering away from test scores.
For our assessment strategies, we want to make sure that both the Reggio Emilia approach and Howard Gardner theory are included when we work through our strategies. The Reggio Emilia approach focuses mainly on self-guided learning, while Howard Gardner focuses mainly on the 8 intelligences. We have decided to combine the two of them and come up with assessment strategies that apply to both. Our first one is self-graded mini quizzes. When a child is able to recognize and fix their own mistakes, they are less likely to feel down about themselves and are able to better grasp the concept for the next time they come across it. We, as teachers, also want to make sure to get a feel for the ways that every single student learns, so we believe that an interest assessment should also be given out in the beginning of the year. We also want to make sure to follow up with the lesson plans geared towards their interests so we can encourage and promote their learning. Progress reports are also a great way for students to self-reflect on how they think they are doing and in what areas they can improve upon. Lastly, weekly check-ins are a great way to make sure that every student is on the right track and that they all understand what we have learned in the previous week. So here we just have some examples of assessment strategies. So we have an interest assessment, which has questions like, do you enjoy learning inside or outside? Do you like to do math problems and find multiple solutions? Do you prefer to work alone or in groups? And that tells us what type of learner that the student may be. And we also have a quiz geared towards a naturalistic learner. So we can do different quizzes for each type of learner and have the questions geared towards that specific learning style. So for example, we have which season does snow appear, and they get to pick an answer, or which of the following can melt into a liquid, and that can deal with what we find out.
For guidance strategies, we think that there should be student-led discussions using group or teaching tables. The classroom is the teacher, and students should be able to lead their own discussions so that they feel like they're in charge of their learning. We as teachers should try to ask questions that direct the flow of their discussion without directly interfering. We also should encourage peer interactions, for example, debates or role play. Peer interaction can allow for children to scaffold and learn from each other. It is important that students interact with one another because they can develop stronger social skills. Peer interactions are one of the most important aspects of socialization in children. It's also important to remember that we need to interfere when needed, to step in and derail the problems. According to Smith and Chow, teachers should encourage students to interact, discuss, and even disagree or argue respectfully with each other and other adults. But if the students begin to become too disrespectful or rude, then we as teachers must step in to prevent things from happening. We also should encourage individual choice. We want students to make their own decision. The whole idea of our classroom is based off the idea of students making their own choices, and the students should be able to decide what they want to do without feeling pressure from others.
The DAP connection. Our ideal classroom allows students to discover more about their own cultures and environment. This gives the students the opportunity to learn more about themselves. Children have the chance to learn at their own pace because they are deciding what they want to do. To conclude this presentation, we want students in our classroom to focus on their own personal interests, and everything should revolve around the student and making sure they are doing what they want to. We want to strive to make sure that school is fun for them and that they want to keep coming back each and every day. These are our references. Thank you so much for watching.